Shane, your most recent project is Alyssa, Portrait of a Teen Killer. Is that the current name, or has there been a change?
There's actually been a few changes because originally I called it Columbine, even though it's not about Columbine. And then we were shooting it, and I called it the Columbine. Then I decided after we were finished shooting to call it the Columbine Effect, because basically this actually goes into a story I forgot about. When I heard about Alyssa, it was getting. It reminded me of Columbine. I stopped watching TV basically when Columbine happened because there was some trailer for a show about like a 1 hour special in Columbine I saw where it had the Platoon music, that music from Platoon, William Dafoe is like dying, he throws his arms out, very great cinematic moment in music. But they used that music with the real footage of the kids running out screaming while their friends are, getting shot to death. And I just thought that was so sickening and evil to like use real footage of these kids being, shot to death as like a cinematic moment to get ratings, And so I stopped watching TV as a teenager when I saw that. I just was like, oh, I'm done. Like right there, I just stopped watching TV and just stuck to going to the theater or DVDs, And no more television shows because I didn't want to see a trailer. Like I just literally stopped watching TV shows, everything. And when I heard about Alyssa, Alyssa Bustamante, the way that they were glamorizing what happened, like it was a show, it was specifically, am I allowed to cuss? I don't know. Because I tend to cuss
Sure,
a lot.
yeah, you can cuss, yeah.
I was going to say something really offensive, but I was like, what an evil, bitch. I just was so disgusted by what I saw, what she was saying, about Alyssa, because I was thinking, this is a real person. You don't even know she, you just found out about it. You don't even know she did it yet. She confessed, but that can mean anything because she's a kid, and I know, based on being a kid myself, that police will try and beat you into a false confession, And so, I was just the kind of press it was getting. I was so reminded of Columbine. It just seemed so sickening to sensationalize this stuff with kids and use it for ratings. And so, because I was reminded of Columbine, I guess it was more of a me title. It didn't make sense to anybody necessarily but me, so I called it the Columbine Effect. But then people thought I was using the titles to sensationalize the film, so it kind of like, backlashed on me, and it wasn't about Columbine, so people thought I was just trying to use the Columbine name to sell it, so I was like, that's the exact opposite of what I was trying to do. So I changed it to My Name is A by Anonymous. We were trying to think of a title. I think I came up with My Name is A, and then Alicia, the producer, mentioned something about a book called Ask Alice. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah,
I hadn't read it. But something really about it being anonymous or by Anonymous or something. And I'm like, My Name is A by Anonymous, because I like having titles where when you Google it, only the movie comes up, like Amateur Porn Star Killer. That was the only, that had never been used before, that name. And so My Name is A, I Googled it, and I'm like, there's a gazillion links to anytime somebody's saying my name is A something, it would come up. So I'm like, how can we have this be only the movie? So we added the by Anonymous part, and I thought it kind of fit the ambiguity. Is that a word, ambiguity?
Yeah,
the ambiguous nature of my vocabulary actually isn't great. I thought that kind of just fit, because the film is kind of it doesn't really follow Alyssa, it follows a few characters, and you're not really sure exactly what's going on. And so I kind of thought the anonymous thing kind of fit, with My Name is A, by Anonymous.
Right.
So anyway, so we did that, and then the film circulated for so many years because it was just such a hard sell. And we finally found a distributor, and then the distributor, it took a while to get everything ready and figure out how to market it. And then finally, just recently, after, it's been like almost 5 years since we shot the movie now, then all of a sudden there was a name change, because the DVD is still called My Name is A by Anonymous, but the internet crowd, who has a short attention span, doesn't like to think or have any kind of, meaning in anything, we're like, okay, we have to have a title that's going to grab you right off the bat. And it needs to start, this is what I was told, it needs to start with like a number or a letter A, B, or C, because people are too lazy when they're looking for a good movie, which, don't even get me started on that. But our generation, the new generation of, the internet crowd, is just too lazy to want to have any kind of substance in anything, I was told. So we need to hit you something with like, that's like in your face and starts with like an A or B. And since her name was Alyssa, that actually worked out, it all worked out, and I actually liked the title. But that's the title for anything that's not the DVD, basically. To answer that long question, or that long answer in that question is, My Name is A by Anonymous is the DVD. Alyssa, Portrait of a Teen Killer is everything else. So pay-per-view, TV, digital, cable, I don't know, I only watch DVDs, so all these other outlets, however people watch movies these days, that's going to have the Alyssa title.
And there's controversy over the film. Let's talk about why there's controversy.
Yeah, and I feel like there's going to actually be more controversy with that new title, because now it's kind of spelling out exactly what it is. And what's the controversy is, it has, I think when people see it, there's going to be new controversy too. There's child actors, which this isn't even the controversy now. This will probably be more once people watch it. So we have like all these 8, 10-year-old kids. The lead 2 girls are 13 and 14, or 13 and 14 at the time. Now everyone's like 18 because it took so long to come out. But at the time, the 2 lead girls are 13 and 14 years old, and then we have like a boy who was like 7 or 8, and then the 9-year-old victim, who's a 10-year-old actress. So we have all this kind of violent attitude, I guess, towards children, and tons of cussing and lots of kind of bullying, but it's done in such a realistic way, or it kind of looks like it's really happening, which it wasn't. If you look between takes, everyone's just laughing. I mean, the lead actress and the little boy were actually brother and sister, and the moms were like there the whole time supervising everything. We had a professional acting coach who was there the entire time, watching everything. But when you're watching it, you don't know all that. And when you're watching it, there's just a lot of vulgarity towards children. So that's probably going to create a whole new kind of controversy, I'm thinking. But what's going on right now is the fact that it was based on the murder of a real 9-year-old, and a very vicious one, and one that is one of the most popular murder cases in recent memory. And so a lot of people, I'm trying to think of a way to explain it. It's okay for the news to be like, hey, this just happened, let's talk about it, everybody watch the news and give us ratings so we can all, get money and sensationalize this. But it's not okay, what I've learned, is when an independent filmmaker says, okay, instead of spending 5 minutes on this topic and making money, I'm going to spend 5 years trying to understand it. So for me, there's no controversy whatsoever. For me, I'm the one actually trying to do what the news, I think, is glamorizing or sensationalizing. I want to understand why this happens. But unfortunately, the public, they look at it as, oh, this guy's making money. This guy is just looking for, an easy thing to make a film about. So I guess that's the controversy, if that's even kind of answering the question, is it's okay for the news to sensationalize murder, but people don't want to see a film made about it. And I actually don't understand. I guess I could try to understand why people are mad about that, but I actually don't, because she basically made fun of Alyssa for trying to kill herself. Once she was arrested, she tried to kill herself by scratching her arms open with her nails, which I think is a very painful way to die. And I don't think she was doing it for attention, because the girl already was on Prozac and known to have all these mental issues, and had already tried to kill herself and had self-inflicted wounds that you could see from the pictures they were using all over her arm, and was known not to make that public to like her friends, and stuff like that. And so anyways, she was making fun of this 15-year-old who we don't even know if she actually did it, or why she did it. She was making fun of this girl for trying to kill herself, and I thought that was the most sickening thing I'd ever seen, is for the news to make fun of a kid trying to kill himself. Like, what the fuck? And to me, that was, I guess, if anything's controversial, I don't understand basically why it wasn't that, because that outraged me so much that that's what made me go, okay, I want to make a film about that, because it reminded me of the Columbine thing. She's making all this money and sensationalizing this murder of this child and making fun of this other child, and she's probably a millionaire, I'm assuming, because of it, and it's totally okay. And to me, that just sickens me. I want to understand, something more than that. I want to understand why this stuff happens, and but apparently that's the person who's controversial. So.
So Shane, why show this story? If it is depressing, why spend 5 years plus of your life delving into it? I understand, that judgment of some people that are designated as, sort of the pundits able to talk about it and not be judged, whereas those that are artists are more, trashed or brought down in some way, branded as evil because they want to show light about something. But what was it about this story that you felt you needed to explore and spend so much time and energy and money and resources on?
I guess to just jump into it, basically when I saw the picture of Alyssa, the most famous one, it was her just kind of making this claw, like she had all this, weird bad makeup on, but she was making like this, claw figure at the camera. And on her arm she had like 50 really bad really just deep scarred self-inflicted wounds on her arm. And I don't know if you can see, but I have exactly just that. So I basically felt like I was looking into a mirror suddenly. I was just like, holy shit. I mean, mine aren't as visible anymore because they're a lot older than hers were probably, new. But I just was like, they were so identical. It was just like, it was just like, that's exactly what my arm looks like. And that's kind of trippy. And being a self-abuser, I already know that I can't understand or even picture or fathom somebody who self-abuses killing somebody else. It didn't make sense to me. If anything, she would have killed herself, which she already tried to do. And so I kind of felt like I was looking into a mirror in a way. And I do know at one point, right before I started self-abusing when I was 13, I had thought of killing kids at my school because I was bullied so bad. And I literally had, when I was in 8th grade, I literally had not a single friend, like not even the dorks would be my friend. And, because it was predominantly a Hispanic school, so I got picked on for being white. I wasn't allowed to use the bathroom. I would get, people put gum in my hair and they'd have to cut my hair out, to get the gum out, and, just smack me over the head with weapons, just for no reason whatsoever other than walking, or trying to use the bathroom. And, anyways, it was so bad. I was terrified to go to school, and so I actually mapped out how I was going to kill everybody at my school. But then I was like, I don't have guns, so I was like, okay, so I armed myself with kitchen knives because that's the only weapon I could get. And but then, well, actually, just so many things. It's kind of hard to pinpoint one. I ended up seeing blood all over the walls one day at school, it went on for maybe 15, 20 feet, just blood on the walls. And it was one of the guys who I wanted to fuck up. And he was a big guy. And somebody I don't know who beat his ass, but somebody beat him up really bad, this big guy who I couldn't stand, who would pick on me. And it was a bunch of people picked on me, but he was one of them. And it actually, not only frightened me seeing his blood, it's made me sad. And I think that's when I realized I could never hurt somebody else. And I could never, especially with a knife, so that kind of raises, I guess, maybe the gun control issue. If I had a gun, maybe it would be a lot easier to just point and shoot, but there's no way I could have walked up to somebody and stabbed them. I mean, I feel bad if I have to kill a fly. I'd rather it just go away, And so that's when I decided I couldn't ever hurt anybody, and then I started self-abusing. And I thought that would maybe make people afraid of me, because I started by grinding my hands into the walls till I had no skin on my knuckles. So I thought maybe they would think I beat somebody up, or that's kind of how it started, my 13-year-old mentality. And then it started leading into other stuff, and then I didn't even end up actually cutting till I was 26. So it was 13 years later when it turned into, I guess, direct, how would you say it? It was always other forms of self-abuse. It wasn't the cutting thing. I totally forgot the question because I told you I go all around in circles, but it was
Okay.
What made me want to.
So you saw Alyssa's picture and you saw her arm, and there was something in her.
I saw myself in her. That's what it was. And I guess it was a need to understand that, or could I kill somebody? Since I'm looking in the mirror, could I have killed somebody, or why did she do it? There's just all these things going through my head. It was a need to understand it. It was outraged by just the media in general, but mainly her. I was so sickened by that lady. And I know she does it for show, and who knows? Maybe she's even a nice person, but still, she's selling out if she is. I mean, that's just awful what she does, I think. And so that combined with, you know, making me think about Columbine, I think a lot of things were going on. It reminded me of the Columbine thing, and that's what actually made me stop watching television. And yet, you know, I'm a filmmaker, but I stopped watching, you know, television, which is like a huge, I think, part of the industry. And so I just had so many things floating through my head. You know, I guess I was angry at the media. That was another thing too, is there's so many things. A few months earlier, I tried to make a movie about human trafficking, and that was an issue I'd been, it was in 2009, I attempted to make started to get together an idea for human trafficking, and I've been wanting to do it since 2005 when I first had heard about like sex trafficking. And so it would have been about, you know, sex trafficking in particular. And I'd been spending months trying to figure out the story I could make. And then this girl ended up in the news, JC DeGard, who most people have probably heard about if they've, you know, ever wanted to make a movie about human trafficking, might have heard about this girl. She lived for 18 years as a slave to this guy and had kids, and then she ended up being found. You know, they had thought she was dead for almost 2 decades, and then they found her, and she was like, in 2009, she was like the most famous, I guess, person in the world as far as non-celebrity, I would say. I mean, she was just everywhere. And so when I heard the story, I was like, oh, I want to make a movie like that. And I announced it thinking, you know, nobody's gonna, you know, I announced it to like a couple indie horror sites thinking nobody's gonna read this. I just can use this to maybe get a few actors I want, you know. And I said I got the idea from the JC DeGard thing, and because I made a movie called Amateur Porn Star Killer, next thing I know is posting a pornographer making JC DeGard porno. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, seriously? And then for about 48 hours, I became the most hated man in the world. I mean, my friends were like, hey, you're on the news in Ireland, you're on the news in Korea, the Korean newspapers are writing about you, you know, England, you're all over England, you're on the front page of the Globe, tabloids. I'm like, I had no idea the world worked this way, like the media. Like, you know, like I said, in 1999, I stopped watching the news or television because of Columbine, but then in 2009, now a decade later, I almost killed myself over that. I mean, because it caused problems within my family, because, I mean, everybody, my dad was calling me up, you know, you're on the radio getting thrashed right now. I mean, oh God, that experience was just awful. And I was sincerely, I mean, I was trying to make this film I thought was important. And I just said, you know, hey, I got the idea from this story, so I want to make basically her story, but I was going to change all the names and all this stuff. And I just wanted to see what the Stockholm Syndrome, I was going to explore the Stockholm Syndrome, you know, and I thought that was really interesting. And that was always kind of something that I think I explored subconsciously, you know, throughout, you know, other, you know, some of my other films. And then all of a sudden, no, everyone in the world decided to hate me, and I wasn't used to being thrashed. Like, you know, I interviewed me, and that guy was a nightmare, just completely. I had no idea. I didn't listen to this stuff, and that guy just, I was like one of the worst experiences of my life talking to that guy. You know, I just like almost like wanted to die after talking to him. You know, and none of these people, the whole thing, none of these people gave a fuck. You know, and that's what happened. So I dropped the movie. It ruined my relationship. I mean, it ruined so many things for me. And then literally it was like that same time, it was like only a couple weeks before, like Alyssa, you know, had been all over the news. So this was all happening at the same time. I was all over the news for, you know, trying to make this human trafficking thing, and then she was all over the news. And maybe that was it too. Maybe I saw all these accusations. People don't want to wait for anything. Like they hear, oh, so-and-so just got, you know, raped by, or you know, 5 girls just got raped. They have a suspect. His name is so-and-so. Oh wait, it's not him, little retraction. And then that guy's life is ruined. I mean, they don't give one damn about ruining, the media doesn't care about ruining anybody's life. You know, they ruin lives. In my opinion, the media ruins lives left and right. They don't care. They just want headlines. They just want a story. And I think that was one thing that made me want to jump on it, because I already felt like my life was ruined. I mean, my life literally felt ruined at that point, and I feel like I've been picking myself up ever since. Now I feel finally back to being me, which is funny, because now that the movie's coming out, I'm like, oh shit, you know, maybe now something else is going to happen. But I think that was a big thing, is I felt like I had nothing to lose. I felt like I had nothing to lose at that point. Everything's screwed, you know, right now for me. why don't I just go tackle this subject on this? I can't make a story about a victim. Why don't I make a story about a murderer who I almost think might be a victim, because I at least think she's a victim of the media. So maybe that's it, if that answers the question. Because, and then the thing with making it, then I started thinking she actually didn't do it. So that's a whole other story. And now I'm actually almost convinced she didn't even do the murder. And that actually made me think about my childhood, which was completely ruined by false accusations and the court and the system and all this stuff. So yeah, maybe that answers the question. I felt like I had nothing to lose. I saw a lot of myself. I wanted to challenge the media. It was the man with nothing to lose, I guess, is maybe the...
So you say that because of this these accusations and how they just labeled you a pornographer, and that you're trying to make this horrific film, and then it was spread everywhere, and you were painted a certain way, and you lost relationships and things fizzled for you. You wanted to take your own life, but you didn't. What was the reason? What stopped you?
That's a big question. I mean, it's not like I wanted to, I just felt like I could die, you know, and like, I don't think I've ever been like a suicidal person, but there's so many times where I'm on the road and I'm like, maybe I'll just run off the cliff right now. And I think, I mean, that happens so many times, you know, and all it takes is that 1 second where you just say, fuck it, and you actually do it. And I've never done it, obviously. I mean, sometimes it's not even like I feel like dying. Sometimes it's like I feel so numb. I'm in so much pain that I've actually become numb that I want to maybe crash my car into a pole and hope that nothing bad happens. It just really hurts, and it kind of wakes me back up. Like, okay, now you're alive. Wake up and get back to it. You know. So I have those kind of, I guess, feelings. It's not like I've ever had, oh, I'm going to put a gun to my head, or I'm going to take a bunch of pills. I've never actually thought that way, but it's been more, it's always driving, because I drive a lot, and so it's always been more like on, you know, I get really depressed, and then I'm always driving, so a lot of times I'm on the road, and I'm just like, you know, I don't know.
But you didn't, it
I never
like
do, yeah.
At the time that this happened, then that's when you heard about Alyssa, is it Bustamante?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
that's when you heard about Alyssa Bustamante. So did you somehow become obsessed with that? Because sometimes there's like something that'll break us out of our own like troubles, and we kind of zero in on that. Whether it's like a reality star and we're just focused, you know, that's what most people do. But you focused on this, which I found interesting, because you saw some parallels, and you saw she was being made out to be a certain person. And I really don't know much about the case, so I can't speak either way. But you saw something, and you focused on that. So did that, making this film, it took you out of your troubles?
Probably, yeah, because I had been made out to be a monster, and then I saw her be made out to be a monster, and then I saw a lot of, you know, similarities, you know, of me and her. And then, so yeah, so I guess my, you know, it's like, kind of grabbed my attention off of that and put it on that. But what was interesting, you know, it only took us 4 days to shoot the film, it was actually the best, most fun I've ever had shooting a movie. It was so easy. It was like the easiest shoot in the world. But then I had to sit on the film. We shot like in April. But then I got dumped in July, and it was an insanely bad breakup. And then that's when I finally started editing. So I actually, that's when I became obsessed, I think, is after the breakup, because that's when I actually started putting the film together, and then I literally felt like I only had this film. I mean, that's what happened is, you know, I kind of made the movie. It took my attention off the thing that happened to me in the media, and then I went back to kind of life with the relationship issues, and then a couple months later, then that was over, and then that's when I was just like, didn't want to live, and I kind of like became sunken in depression with this movie, and then became obsessed with it, I guess. But I don't think I became completely obsessed until like maybe a year after I finished editing, and I couldn't get the movie out. I think that's when I became obsessed, and that's when I started reading more about the case, and I started talking to people at her school. You know, I went to school with her, and that's when I started thinking she didn't do it, and that's when I think I actually became really obsessed, because then I started really kind of digging deep, trying to find out, you know, if she did it, and I think I totally went off the question again, but
Well, you had mentioned in other interviews that I read about you that filmmaking saved your life. So was this the one time, or were there other times? And also, how did it save your life?
Yeah, I guess it probably saves my life every time I make a movie, maybe a little bit, you know.
Okay. How does it save it?
Well, I know, like when I made Amateur Porn Star Killer, I mean, that was just an experiment. That's been it's the biggest thing I've ever made as far as hits, you know. It was a movie I shot in 3 hours with no script and $45, you know. It was, it's always girls, it's a breakup, you know. So I'm always depressed over a girlfriend, and then I come up with something. So like Amateur Porn Star Killer, like when I did that, I had never made a feature. I'd attempted multiple times since I was 10 to make a feature, and I had shot 3 features, and I could never finish them. So in 2000, when I was 24, after getting dumped by my first long-term relationship, there was just a bad year in general, and that was actually the worst year because my grandma had died, and she was like basically my mom to me. I have my mom, but I mean, my mom's blind, so my grandma did a lot of mom stuff. So my grandma and my mom they were like my 2 moms in a way. So my grandma dying basically was like a big, huge deal for me. And then the girl I grew up with next door got killed by a drunk driver like a few weeks before she died. And then a few months later, then the girl I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with dumped me. And so that was the first point, I think, aside from all the times when I was a kid where I wanted to die, this was the first time I think in my adult life where I wanted to die. But I was pissed off because I hadn't completed a feature. And I'd spent, thousands of dollars and years, on all these 3 features since I was 10 trying to make a feature, and I never had. So I was like, well, what can I make, tonight and have it in the can? And I was, I called up a friend. I'm like, how about I play a serial killer and like I rape and kill you, and but it's really graphic. It hasn't been really done, before that I can think of, maybe once or twice. But I was trying to think of something that would maybe be very kind of in your face and very confrontational, because probably it was taking my mind away from stuff, but also something I could shoot very quickly. And so that's probably an example where it saved my life, because I then put my attention to that, and then that movie started creating all this controversy, so then I got kind of caught up in that. And then when I made, Amateur Porn Star Killer 2, I was in the middle of a breakup from a girl who tried to kill me multiple times. And so I think that was an escape from her, and then when I made the third one, that was right after I broke up with that girl. And then when I made My Name Is A, I was fine, but it took my way, I was currently in a relationship, but it took my mind away from the news stuff. But then editing My Name Is A saved me from another breakup, and I don't know, what I mean? And like now, like I had another breakup, in October, but the girl didn't move out until just this April. And so it was tearing me up this whole time. So I didn't even feel like we broke up until April. And so I've been doing films now that I think have been saving my life from that. Like the past 2 months, I've never worked so much in my life. And then that was to, because I was feeling all suicidal again, I guess, after her. So I guess every time I make a movie, it's kind of saving my life. Rarely do I make a movie where I'm like really happy and hey, I'm making a movie. It's usually life sucks and this movie is saving my life, if that answers the question. Usually I'm always in a state of life sucks and a movie saves my life. So maybe that's why people get something out of it, because I'm always kind of pouring, I guess, a lot of heart and soul into it. I'm never just doing it to kill time, It's always to get my mind off of stuff,
Shane, looking back at your life and all the things that you went through that sound like they're pretty painful and they would hurt most of the population, would you change your life? Or would you say, you know what, maybe if I had it too comfortable, it wouldn't push me to make these films? Because so many people talk about doing this stuff and they don't either do it or they don't finish it. So you're finishing it. You're even taking 5 years to believe in something, which is pretty commendable. So would you change all that?
I really don't. No, I mean, because there's so many things that could be changed. So it's like, at what point do you? It's like those time travel movies. At what point, I forget the term, but at what point do you? Like say there's 30 different things, traumatic things that have happened. Do you start from the first one? I think my thing with the butterfly effect for some reason, like, at what point do you make that splice, because I mean, life, a lot of these things, I've had a lot of these things happen where it's like these big events, I guess, and they started when I was 5. So it's like, at what point would I if I changed anything, like at what point would I do that? I don't know, you know. I mean, most of what I make, I think, is about like lost childhood or rape or incest, you know, and I mean that goes back to when I was 5 years old. You know, somebody thought I was being sexually abused because of a picture I drew, and then that put me in foster care for 2 years. You know, and then my 1-year-old brother ended up, you know, living with his foster family until he was 18. So it was my only sibling. So I never really had a sibling, and then to this day I still kind of feel responsible for that. And to this day, well, he finally stopped, he's 30 now, he finally stopped questioning it when he was like 27, 28. You know, so it's only just recently where he's stopped kind of getting in my mom's face about why did you give me up, you know, and, you know, to my foster family, and that all dates back to something I did, you know, because I drew a picture that grown-ups misinterpreted, but, you know, my life's never been the same, so it's like you know, it caused my family to, you know, move, you know, counties. It caused me to never have a sibling, you know, and it gave my grandma a stroke, you know, the stress, because she was like 75 at the time, and even my dad, who was only 35 at the time, and he thought he was having a heart attack. Turned out it was just gas. Like, he was so stressed, he was like creating all this, you know, gas that made him feel like he was having a heart attack. And it just, I mean, so many lives were ruined from that. So lots of times I think, what if I didn't draw that fucking picture? But I was 5, so it's like, you know, I think like, God, my imagination, like, you know, I was even too risque even back when I was a 5-year-old. You know, what's wrong with me? Like, I think about that sometimes too. Like, what's wrong with me? Why would I, you know, draw something? What was I thinking when I drew that? You know. You know, so I don't know at what point would I take something back, you know, because I think about that all the time. So obviously it haunts me, but then again, who the hell knows where I'd be if none of this stuff happened, and I wouldn't have all this anger towards, you know, not society, but the system, to law enforcement. Like, I have such a rebellious attitude towards authority, and you know, and it all started with that, you know, and. I mean, you know, I don't know. There's so many things where it's like, I wish I would have taken that back, but maybe then this wouldn't happen. I mean, or I wish I would, you know, could take that back. Or I wish I never would have said I was going to make that human trafficking movie, because then I wouldn't have that whole reputation. But then that made me end up making the Alyssa movie. But then who knows how that's going to be perceived? So maybe I shouldn't have made that. You know what I mean? There's so many things that have happened where I'm like, I don't know if I would take that. I don't know. That's a really hard question to. I don't know what drives me necessarily, because I've loved movies, you know, since I was a little kid, and my dream was to make Van Damme movies, you know, to star or direct, you know, star and or direct Van Damme movies, and that's nothing like the movies I make. I mean, I'm so far from making those kind of movies, so maybe it would have been better if that stuff didn't happen, because maybe I'd be making action movies and fun movies, not all these depressing, I want to kill myself kind of movies. You know, maybe that doesn't help me. Maybe it just makes me kind of live in that misery. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's I don't really know how to answer that.
But would you have pushed yourself to make them?
I might have. I mean, I loved movie. See, now it's not even like I love movies. Now it's like I have to do it, which could be better, but it's like there's not necessarily enjoyment anymore. You know, and I try to like go watch like the Expendables movies and get enjoyment like that back, and sometimes I do, but I it's more like, no, I want to watch something that depresses the shit out of me. Is that healthy? You know, I don't know.
So you do sometimes wonder whether it relates back to that picture at 5 years old or other things. If maybe things were more Ozzie and Harriet and perfect sort of picket white fence, where would you be now? But maybe you wouldn't have that same drive inside you to make these films, because it's not easy to make films, and a lot of people talk, you know, we already went down there, and I brought that up, but have you thought about that maybe all that happened, but it also pushed you to put these stories out? That maybe if stuff was too easy, you wouldn't have done anything?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that that's the case, but but would I have been in a better place if none of that had happened and I was making cool action movies, I guess is the thing, you know, I mean, because like, you know, life's short, so like, maybe it would have been better if I was just having fun making movies and not so serious, you know. You know, maybe it would be better if I was not pushing myself because I had to, but pushing myself because I wanted to. You know, I feel like I push myself because I have to, not because I want to or because I'm having fun, you know. I mean, I am having fun here and, you know, there, but it's more like, you know, even looking back at stuff I've made, like, depresses me because I think about the mindset I was in. You know, I don't think about necessarily the shot or, you know, you know, the filmmaking aspect. I think more about the mindset, the mood, the emotion, which is what I love though too. I mean, it's a really hard question because like I want to feel emotional when I watch something, but like I said, life's fucking short, so maybe it'd be better to just feel fun and bliss and you know, like often Never Land when you're making movies. I don't. It's a hard question.
So why do you feel like you get to make these films? So many people come to LA, so many people go to film school, they have access to the money for these cameras, but you get to do it. A lot of people talk about it, they don't do it. Why do you get to do it?
It's not that I get to do it, it's just that I do it. You know, if they have, like some people, I guess maybe, well, this day and age, I guess everybody can, but I would say some people, if they're that poor, maybe they can't, you know, or they're that busy, like who knows, you know, they have to take care of somebody 24 hours a day. Who knows what kind of problems somebody might have, you know, or have to deal with in life. But if somebody has the equipment, like you said, or the money, it's not that I get to do it. They get to do it too. They're just choosing not to do it. You know, I choose to. I don't really know anything else, and it pisses me off a lot too. Like I don't know how to make a living. You know, I don't know how to. Like really take care of myself. All I know is movies, you know, and there's not really any money in it, you know, at least for indie filmmakers, and definitely not today, unless you're really maybe internet savvy and you know how to work that area, but I don't really know technology that well. I am all about the emotional part, and I don't have somebody, you know, like a partner who's like, hey, I'll work for free and I'll figure all that stuff out and then we'll split the share, you know. So I do it because I have no idea what else to do, you know. I wish lots of times I had a 9-to-5 job and I knew there was something where I could get a 9-to-5 job, but I don't have any skills at anything. You know, I even check into it regularly. Like every month I'm like, oh, fuck this shit, I'm done. And then I'll start looking for jobs and I'm like, oh, I have no degrees in anything. The only thing I can do is like flip burgers, you know, and I don't want to do that. So that's why I keep doing, that's why I get to do this, because I don't want to flip the burgers, so I'll keep doing this, and I don't have time to suddenly go, okay, let me spend 6 years getting a degree in this, because there is certain things I'd like to do, like, and it's not in film. You know, I'd like to work with like troubled youth, or like in a youth home, or like at a rape crisis center, stuff like that. But whenever I check on stuff like that, it's like you have to have this 2-year degree or this 4-year degree, which I think in a way is kind of dumb, because maybe it'd be better if it's people with experience and that kind of stuff. But you know, so I think about not doing it all the time, but I get to do it because I don't really have an option, I guess, is how I look at it. You know, like, what else am I going to do? Shit, I better make another movie. I don't know. You know, like, I feel like I might be homeless one day because, like, nothing's, you know, paying the bills or working out. So, you know, if I can make 10 movies before that happens, maybe that'd be better, because maybe something will happen, you know. Like, maybe somehow that'll lead to an actual job where, like, I can then start, you know, supporting myself from filmmaking. Otherwise, I'm kind of screwed. I don't know.
Do you think a peer group holds you back or helps you?
Like, as far as...
Suppose you have a
like,
big circle of friends. You know, you talked about being more alone when you were younger. Do you think as you get into your adult years, that's really a bad thing in some ways? Because sometimes a peer
Do you mean
group,
like friends within the industry, or do you mean like just friends, period?
friends, period. Do you think sometimes that helps, or do you think it holds you back? Because you don't want to rise above them. You want to just stay where they are, and if maybe they aren't doing anything, you'll stay at that level, but if they are, you'll want to go with them. Does that make sense? Does a peer group help you rise, or can it also hold you back?
I think if you were like working together, but like I don't have like friends that I just hang out with. I'm pretty much a loner, you know? And then the people I do hang out with are other people in the industry. And what I think is important, I was actually thinking about this earlier, so it's funny you asked, is I think it's good to grow a family. I think it's one reason it's been hard for me is because I'm always out on my own, you know. And if I work with people, lots of times it's just new people, whoever is free at the moment. But I think if you had maybe 10 people who all work together, like look at the mumblecore movement, you know, how they all kind of, you know, like got big, and they all had, you know, kind of work, you know, exchanged working on films together. Or look at like James Franco and Seth Rogen, all, you know, they all, you know, they all got each other's back, and they're stronger that way, you know. And you know, even with the coming back of Stallone and all these people, you know, like they all have each other's back, and unless you're like Tom Cruise, you know, or like, oh, I was gonna say, or Denzel Washington, but even him, like, do you notice once him and Tony Scott started working together, it was like every movie almost, you know. And I think it would be great to have something like that, because I think you kind of, if you're doing well together, you know, just keep feeding off of it and keep, you know, it's like, you know, oh, I'll lift you up and you lift me up. It's like, if you're doing it by yourself, it's just, you know, you're just climbing a ladder, you get exhausted. But if you got, you know, friends carrying you, okay, you're tired, let me help you up, and then you're tired, let me help you up, and, you know, and it's like you get a break, and, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what's important. It would be great to have friends within the industry, to create a family. Really, I think it's really good when you create a family. Like, I worked with this one actor, Kevin Gage, and I've been talking to him for like 7 years, but I just never had gotten a chance to like do anything with him or even meet up with him. It was just, you know, phone call and emails for 7 years, and then finally we worked on something together, and he was just like the best person in the world to work with. He's always like a bad guy, like in Heat and all these movies. He's known for being this horrendous kind of sleazy bad guy on top of that. But he's such like just you feel so motivated working with him. And so like as soon as I worked with him, it was like I worked on like 5 films with him in like a 6-month period, because I just wanted to keep working with him. And that definitely made me want to, because I wanted to keep working with him, that made me want to keep working, you know. And it's like I would love to work on anything he's working on, because he's just so awesome to be around. And I think if you had like 10 people like that, even if you just had one other person like that, it's just, I think that helps, you know. So hopefully that answers the question. It would be great to have people like that, I think. But in real life, I don't really have like, it's hard for me because I don't drink, I don't do drugs, and I realize it actually creates a lot of problems having a social life, because it even came up yesterday. The drinking thing comes up all the time. People don't know what to do with me because I don't drink, as if there's nothing else to do in life or something, I don't know. And so I'm just kind of a loner, and I'm always working on movies. And so in my free time, I'm either watching movies, or I just hang out with the dogs, or like I go to the gym, you know. So I'm pretty much a loner otherwise.
So you've been in this filmmaking game for well over a decade, because you said you were making films even as young as 7, right? Because your dad was in the industry. What do you think the future of filmmaking will be like 10 to 20 years from now? What do you see? You know, DVD market obviously collapsed, took a lot of jobs with it.
And how, 20 years?
10, 20 years, yeah.
I mean, I just wonder what it's going to be like in a year, you know. I mean, I've been talking to, because I work with, you know, multiple distributors, and I've been talking to a lot of them recently about stuff like this, because they're, you know, everyone's freaking out, you know. And I remember, and I'm talking about indie distributors, I don't know as far as like, you know, bigger indie like IFC or Magnolia. I'm not talking about the big indie, you know, or Sony or anything like that. I'm talking about like the really indie distributors. I remember in 2007, one of them told me that a good selling DVD was 3,000 copies. You know, if they sold 3,000 copies, then they made their money back, and a little bit more. Now it's 300 copies, and a lot of their movies do like 50 to 100 copies. It's like, I can't imagine, you know, working on a movie for a year and it sells like 100 copies. I mean, you get 100 YouTube views in a couple seconds, you know, with the right video. You know, and then, you know, another company, they're not even gonna do DVD anymore. They're like, you know what, we're just gonna do strictly, you know, the internet or cable, which for somebody like me, so I don't even have the internet, you know. So I, basically watching movies, I have no idea how it's gonna turn out, because watching movies for me in a small town sucks, because I only rented from the video stores. We used to have 10, now we have none. We only have Redbox, and their movies suck. And you get like 30, a choice of like 30 films, and you can't even like look at the back of the DVDs. So my whole way of viewing movies has gotten changed so much. I would rent a movie based on the back of the DVD, because that really kind of would break or sell the movie. And when I would do that, 95% I would say of what I rented turned out to be good, because I knew how to judge that way. Now it's the opposite. 95% of what I watch is shit. So I'm almost to the point where I don't even want to watch movies anymore, because I don't really get to judge it before I I base it just on a little image from the front, when I rent. And who knows how long Redbox is going to be around if everything goes through the internet. So I don't know. I'm actually really freaked out about that. I mean, it seems like people's attention spans are too short. Like it reminds me of some of these futuristic movies where you're watching, they would show, I'm trying to think of what movie, was it Minority Report? I don't know what it was, but maybe it was Gamer. Anyways, I can't remember the movie, but I swear there's been multiple movies where like they'll show somebody watching 20 channels at once, 20 different monitors. And that actually seems like what people do nowadays. It seems like they're close to that. So and that means I don't see how anybody's going to want to sit through a movie anymore. I mean, I went and saw Sin City last night, and there was 4 people in the theater, and that just came out. I saw Expendables 3 on opening night, and there were 6 people in the theater in Hollywood at the Dome. I mean, I know there's certain movies that are doing well, but it's like, I was looking around the past few movies I've been to, and I'm like, how are these places going to keep in business, I mean, I know there's money still being made, but it's like, for how much bigger the population is, the money has not gone up with it, you know what I mean? And that means a lot of people, a large percentage of people are not going to the movies like they used to be. And as far as at home, I mean, people start watching something. I see a lot of people review my stuff. They're like, oh, I watched 30 seconds. I don't want to watch it, but I'm going to talk shit about it anyways. And that's the kind of people that live in today's world. They don't, everybody's sewn to themselves. I don't think anybody wants to invest 2 hours into a movie of something somebody else did. And for how self-centered people are today, I don't actually see movies existing in 20 years. I don't see how it actually could at the rate we're going. So who knows what the film business is going to be like in 20 years. There's probably going to be 20 channels of Look at Me or the news. I mean, who wants to spend 2 hours invested in something that's not them? We're such a Look at Me generation, and nothing sells anymore. People pirate movies like crazy. They don't think it's worth anything. 1,000 people spend $100 million over the course of 3 years making a movie, and people think they can just rip it off. I mean, so what does that say about where, the industry is going? I don't know. It's scary. That's one reason why I'm trying to pump out as many movies as I can right now, or work as much as I can, because I think that it could possibly completely die. I mean, then again, the world could explode. So who knows? That could happen tomorrow.
So when you saw your dad in the industry, you would go with him, right? He was an editor, or he worked? Yeah,
I never really actually understood exactly what his job was. He was an editor. He did like lots of stuff, like when they did Laserdiscs, back there, like the Laserdisc company. And I watched them go through so many transitions, because they, like, Laserdisc was, before DVD. It was around way before DVD, and I would watch them do all the, they did commentaries, so I met, like, I hung out with, like, John Wayne's kids and, like, all these people since I was a little kid. I was hanging out with, I forget her name, Lita Gray, Charlie Chaplin's wife, or one of his ex-wives. So I got a great kind of film history lesson from the time I was really young. And that's what he would do. He would just, he'd bring in a lot of these kind of people and interview them, or put in like extras for like interviews with all these people. Basically all the extra features for Laserdisc, and then that transitioned into DVD. But I know throughout that he did a lot of editing as well. I think he edited a couple features, and I know he edited trailers and stuff like that. So he started bringing me in. I just remember he first showed me how to edit when I was 5 by doing jump cuts to make somebody disappear. So that's when it first caught my attention. Like, he showed me how to disappear from a jump cut, like, somebody's walking, just, cut it to nobody's there. And as a 5-year-old, I was like, what, and then when I was 7, I started editing from like VHS to VHS player. I would hook it up and do it at home. But then when I was 9 or 10, he started bringing me into Image. When he started working at Image, he started bringing me there, because he was working at Hollywood Stars or something like that for a TV show before that. So there I would just hang out, but then I guess he felt I was old enough at 9 or 10 that he started showing me how to actually edit on the pro equipment they had. You know, where he did all these kind of like tape to tape. It was really, editing on film I'm sure was even harder, but this was definitely harder than you know, all the Adobe and Final Cut stuff. I mean, you really had to take your time doing all this stuff. And that's how I learned to edit for 10 years. I was editing there until 2000 when I started then learning how to do it on Premiere at home, you know. So from like 1990 to 2000, I think I was editing all my stuff at Image, basically. You know, on off hours. I'd make him go in on the weekend because I couldn't do it while he was working, so he'd have to like bring me in on the weekends. So I was just always making him go to, he probably lived at work during those 10 years because I would make him go on the weekends so I could edit, you know, and he would just hang out and do something else or catch up on work, you know.
And what was it like to be around that culture, just of people that were working on films, passionate about them? Do you see that same mindset today, or it's just a different world? It seems like it's a different quality of movies. Back then there was more story-based. That's just my opinion. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, you know, as a kid, I'm not really sure because I would talk to a lot of people there, but I usually, if I wasn't, you know, if I was editing, I was by myself or with him. And then if I was there, you know, like after school or something, I'd just go in one of the rooms. They would actually have me QC stuff. Like, so my first experience, I think, was Enter the Dragon. It was some Bruce Lee movie. And so I wrote down literally every single scratch mark in the, you know, which was constant, you know, because I didn't realize that I was checking for like digital, you know, hiccups. I was looking at all the scratch marks from the actual film and marking every single time code of all that. But anyways, that's the stuff I would do, is I would like kind of, you know, again, be like a loner off. It's not like I had a good understanding of, I guess, how people were with it. I mean, everybody was friendly to me, but it's like, I don't know, I've always been a loner, so I just watched how it changed from the Laserdisc to the DVD, and then they spent, you know, the last couple of years he was there, they just started laying people off little by little, and finally he was the last group of people to go, you know, before they just finally had sold out to somebody else, you know, because they're still around, but it's not the same company really. And they're doing all these big movies actually, but or, you know, big star kind of driven movies, but I think it's actually all done like out, you know, they don't do it in-house anymore. They just have their company that acquires it, and everybody else does all the, you know, because it was a huge company. They had a couple hundred people or maybe several hundred people working there. So I've watched all the transitioning of that. I had more experience, I guess, watching that, the transition of this company, because I spent 20 years kind of, yeah, I have 20 years of knowledge of, I guess, of how Image worked, you know, going from major Laserdisc to not so major DVD to trying to build back up to major theatrical, but then tiny company. You know, I kind of watched all that happen. So I kind of got a, I guess, yeah, I mean, I never really thought about that, but I got a good knowledge of that more than, I guess, the kind of people. More like I got a understanding of how a certain company went through 2 decades, I guess.
So I'm paraphrasing a bit, but I think you've been quoted as saying you'd rather be polarizing than having people just have like this lukewarm reaction, like, yeah, Shane Ryan, his films are okay, but you'd rather have somebody really feel strongly one way or the other. Why is that? Either they love your films or it's not for them.
Yeah, because I mean, if you just think something's all right, then you forget about it, you know? I mean, there's been movies where, I don't know if like I hated them, but I would never watch them again. Like there's one movie I saw called Family Portraits. When I saw Image put it out actually. I saw it like 10 years ago, and I didn't hate it. I hated watching it. You know, it was sort of, it disturbed me. It just really struck a nerve, and I was just like, I instantly gave the movie away to somebody else who I thought might want to watch it, and I was like, I don't need it back. You know, I'm never going to watch this movie again, but you got to watch it. You know. Versus there's other movies where it's like, that was amazing and I have to keep watching it. But there was another movie, again, I didn't hate it. It's called The Living and the Dead. I couldn't even get through it. It really just did not make me feel good. And I've seen plenty of movies that don't make me feel good or kind of disturb me, but this just, I don't know how to explain it. It just really pissed me off. But I still went out and bought, just last week, this is years later, you know, like a new movie that I saw by him, because I'm like, okay, I got to try and watch this now, because like I thought he did such a good job with what he was doing, but sorry, my stomach was so loud. I don't know if that. I thought he did, a really good job with what he was doing. It just did not sit well with me, and that's what a lot of people have told me. But I'd rather my movie not sit well with you than you just be like, oh, it's cool. Because do I ever talk about movies that I was like, yeah, it was all right? I probably forgot about it, and you don't really want that as an artist for a lot of reasons. If somebody absolutely loves or hates it, especially if they love it, obviously you want the love thing first, but if they absolutely hate it, they're going to talk about it. That's free publicity. So, and I've had to learn to look at filmmaking from every angle, doing everything on my own, for so many years. It's like, I mean, even distributing, like I've gotten in with distributors, learning that whole thing. So I've really kind of learned. I don't really know how to do anything well, but I know a little bit about everything, And so I'm always looking at stuff from every angle. And if they hate it, they're going to talk about it. And then they're going to create discussion and debate. I love debate. I actually went to college. When I tried to go to college when I was 18, I went for journalism. And I never liked going to school. So like I never did good on quizzes. Every quiz I failed. I think I got an F on every single quiz. But we were only graded 2 ways. The other way we were graded was we would have to read these debates on, this versus that, and then write our opinion on why we were so for something or so against something. And I didn't read a single one of these debates. I just read the subject, and I just BS'd the whole thing, and I never got lower than an A+. Because I even got an extra credit on some, an A++ extra credit, And what that was is I just loved that idea of having such a strong opinion. I didn't even need to know what it was about. I just could just find something and tune in and just go with it, And I think if people, so that's that whole debating thing. So I think if people have that, just like all these things we were told to read, like it just creates all that awareness, because it creates debates. Like I saw some filmmaker, this guy I know, Ryan Nicholson, who makes very gory films, and my films don't have any gore. They're all kind of psychological, or they have explicit nudity. They're driven through like voyeurism, but they're not gory. So Ryan has a different crowd, but but he's a co-producer on My Name Is A. So anyways, he really loved the amateur porn star killer movies, which don't have a single drop of blood in the whole trilogy. And so he was promoting those the other day on his Facebook, and people just started going off about how much they hated it, because his fans probably all wanted to see gore and then didn't get a single drop of blood, And but that just created him now defending it, a filmmaker who's more well known than me, now defending me. So it just created this kind of debate thing and why he liked it. You know what I mean? So like it creates discussion, it creates talk, it creates awareness. But on top of people hating it because they just don't like it, then there's people who hate it because they don't want to face it. And that's, I think, more what I like is, I think because of my background, everything that's happened, it's like I've had to deal with shit since I was 5 years old that no 5-year-old should have to deal with, that I've had to face like every day of my life since. And I had to face so much shit as a kid. I never felt like I got to be a kid. And so it's like I'm kind of throwing out all my anger on screen, and you can't even fucking deal with that. If I had to deal with this in real life, you better deal with it on screen. You know what I mean? It's like, I guess it's just that confrontational attitude. It's like if somebody was raped and then they made a movie about rape, and somebody's like, oh, I can't deal with that. It's like, like if a girl, made a movie about, rape, it's like how dare, it's almost like how, dare somebody, like, no, you better face this. This stuff happens. It happened to me. Watch this person get raped and know that this happens, And I think that's what I do is, it's like this stuff happened to me, or I'm very aware of it, and you don't want to deal with it. No, you better learn that that's out there. Just face it, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just kind of like, I mean, because I think if people were more aware, maybe it wouldn't happen as much, or maybe people would be more, if people who have a heart at least would be more willing to stop it. I just think, I guess it's an awareness thing. If people, it's not like my movie's going to change the world. It's not like I make a movie thinking it's going to change the world. But you change people one person at a time, I think. And if you make people go, hey, this happens, you just made me realize that, maybe from there something can start, you know.
Or sometimes people don't like stuff because it reminds them of themselves. Like people that they say, oh, I can't stand that person. Well, sometimes you look at them and they're very similar. Maybe they don't see it, but so sometimes people don't want to see stuff about themselves that's dark.
Well, it's funny because that's exactly what happened with Amateur Porn Star Killer, and our friend Chad, he mentioned there's a documentary about it now, and this guy we know, Chad, who was one of the very first people to stand. He was one of like the first 3 people. There was like 3 guys who saw the movie. They're all like middle-aged guys who saw it and just really stood behind it. And Chad specifically had said that it made him question not only himself but society. You know, he wondered. He said it basically. He went into it wanting sex and violence. He got sex and violence, and then he got it in a way where it made him go, "What the hell is wrong with me?" Like, why did I want to see that? It delivered on what I wanted to see, but in such a realistic way that it's like I just got hit with the reality that that's not a good thing. And what is wrong with me that I actually was hoping to have a good time watching that, because I didn't have a good time watching it. And it made him question the rest of society as well, you know. And I think that that movie, a lot of the people who I think actually liked the film did so. They did because they realized they needed to change something about themselves or their way of thinking. And a lot of people I think didn't like it for the same reason, you know. And then that's another thing too. If people love or hate something, it's usually for the same reason. I think actually in a lot of ways, you know, the people loved it and hated it. It's for the same reason. Either they loved it because it, you know, spoke of that issue, or they hate it because it spoke of that issue. And that means that it's the issue, I guess, not the film. It's the issue, or it's the subject, which I'm realizing as I'm saying. But, you know, so maybe that's it.
What would your advice be to an 18-year-old male or female that's maybe gone through some of the same things that you've gone through, and they feel really, really alone, but they have this incredible creativity that's inside of them, probably from a lot of the alone time, but they want to take these feelings that they have, and instead of doing some of the things that we hear about that are so awful, because they feel this pain and authorities aren't doing anything about it, teachers are blaming them and saying you're the problem, even though they're probably not the problem, but they've grown up their entire lives believing that they are the problem. What would you tell someone like that has a lot of creativity and how to channel it?
That's a lot. Some of these people have reached out to me, actually, some of these exact people that you're describing, with My Name is A, because, you know, of what it's about. You know, like it's 15 to 23-year-old girls are really, which is not an audience I'm used to having, are really kind of latching onto this movie even without having, whether they've figured out a way of seeing it earlier or they haven't even seen it. And, you know, a lot of people have been getting in contact with me because of it through like Facebook and stuff. And, you know, it's, you know, then they'll open up right away. You know, some of these people, I mean, one girl, I think she was a kid, like 15 or something. She sent me pictures of her self-mutilated arm, because she had seen, it wasn't My Name is A, but she saw the self-harm video that YouTube banned. I'm trying to remember what I told her. It was just, I told her basically, because that was one specific thing I remember, because I was really not sure how to handle it, you know. And I was like, I don't know what to tell this girl. And I just really told her, I just opened up about myself and what I did, and then tried to let her know that, you know, I obviously understand you because I'm in the exact same boat, you know. And maybe sometimes it's best not even to say that you used to be there, just say, because I currently still, I'm always kind of there. So, because if you say, oh, I used to be in the same, sometimes that makes people go, oh, but how did you get out? You know, I think in some ways it almost might be better to tell them I feel just like you. You know, like I didn't used to be in that place, I still am. And that might sound hopeless to, you know, some people who don't have these problems might think, oh, that sounds hopeless, but I think to the people who do have these problems, if they see that you're actually in the same boat, but you're in the same boat, but you're channeling it in other ways, like you're not, you know, self-abusing, or you're not thinking of going and killing somebody. You know, that's why I think, and I'm realizing this as I'm saying it, but that's why I think it's better to not say I came out of it by doing this, because a lot of people just feel like they can't come out of it. Say I understand because I'm going through the same thing, and then they go, oh, you know, he's actually still dealing with it, but this is how he's dealing with it. You know what I mean? I think that sounds more hopeful to them, and it's the truth. You know, I'm always dealing with these, you know, these issues, or they're always in the back of my mind or whatever. But as far as actual things that they can do, you know, you can if you want to make a movie, I mean, you can. Do you have a smartphone? Because almost everybody, even homeless people I see, have smartphones. I don't, but most people have smartphones. I have a friend who shot a whole movie on a smartphone and got an actual distributor to put it out in stores. Shoot it on your smartphone. Make a video diary, you know, with the subject that's bothering you, or it doesn't have to be that, but if it could be anything, you know. But if it helps, if it's your way of releasing your issues, it could be about your issues or completely opposite, you know. But if it makes you feel better about your issues, you know, make a movie about it. Do it on your smartphone. You might actually be able to get it distributed, or who knows, you might become the next YouTube sensation and do it like as 3-minute video blogs, you know. Write. I've been thinking about writing a book for years, and I just started writing a book that opens with the thing that happened when I was 5. That's the first chapter. I just kind of spit it out in like 15 minutes, and I just started that. Not even maybe it was a week ago, because I finally saw a book written in a way where I thought, okay, that's how I should write it. Because I don't really read. I watch a lot of movies. I read a lot of information. I don't read novels. So I finally saw a novel that was spelled out in a way. It was basically written like memories. And I thought, okay, that's how I should write my novel. So even if you want to write but you don't know how, maybe look at how other people have written, because that's what happened. Is I just really felt like I can't get everything I want to say out on film, and it's hard to get people together. So even if I get a movie made, I'm still missing 99% of what I want to say. How can I say everything I want to say? Maybe be done with it. I should write a book, but then I don't know how to write a book, you know, and my vocabulary is not even great. But then I you know, would go to Barnes and Noble and I started going through all kinds of books, and finally I found one where I'm like, that's how I should write my book. And then it was a matter of just getting motivated, or just, you know, trying to figure out how to get all your thoughts down. And then finally I'm like, just do it. Basically just do it. Finally I just sat down, I put the laptop down last week, and I'm like, okay, just do it. And I started writing, and it was easy, because I think it's the hardest thing is just putting the first finger down, you know. But once you start doing it, it just kind of flows out. Even shooting, it's like sometimes I'm not motivated to shoot, but then the second I hit record, I don't want to stop. And there's so many things. Or you can volunteer if it's not a creative thing, you know, volunteer and try and help other people understand. Work at a homeless shelter if you know, if it depresses you. Like, it can really depress me, like seeing people on the street. Like I'm a loner, but I'll go and hang out with homeless people all the time. You know, if I get a good vibe from them and they're not, I don't think I'm going to get, you know, well, even if I think I'm going to get killed because it's some kind of like a rush. But I mean, like, if I get a good vibe from homeless people, I'll chat with them for 3 hours, you know. Even Keanu Reeves, you could be famous and do it. There's all this stuff about Keanu Reeves. You know, somebody some paparazzi was spying on him hanging out with some homeless guy, and he was there like all day just hanging out with the guy, you know. I mean, if a big celebrity can do it, you know, and not worry about being seen, you know, or what people think, then you can do that, if that's another way of channeling it. And hopefully this all makes sense, but there's so many ways, you know. Volunteer if that helps, write a book if that helps, shoot on your smartphone if you don't have a camera. It's better than, I mean, I think the quality might be better than some cameras. It's better than the cameras I used to shoot all the amateur porn star killer stuff on. Any smartphone is better quality than that, you know. There's just so many things you can do, and if none of that helps, you know, I don't know, maybe just go somewhere and scream until you have no breath left. I've even done that, where it's like, and it comes out of nowhere. And that was something I found recently, like 6 months ago, where it's just like, you just start screaming. And it's like, not screaming like, you know, pointlessly. I mean, you're in so much pain that you just scream until you have no voice left. And you actually feel relieved afterwards, because you're exhausted from it. It's kind of like cutting yourself, but better, you know, because you're not harming yourself. Like, because cutting yourself, the problem is, and people start doing this, When they start doing that, they realize it helps because it actually releases like natural endorphins in your body, and it actually is a natural high. So the problem with cutting yourself is it actually does make you feel better. So I think a good way to maybe stop doing that is, like I said, the screaming thing I found out is it exhausts you, and that's kind of what cutting yourself does. You just kind of feel this high afterwards, and you kind of feel exhausted of that negative energy. But now you're harming yourself, and you don't want to do that. So screaming, I think, is actually, and I've seen that in a couple movies where people are so stressed out, like coming of age movies, and somebody goes somewhere and they just start screaming, and that's when they like finally feel better. And I recently did that in real life, and I've done it like 3 times now, and I'm like, I almost lost complete control of myself. It's like you're on a drug, but that's the point. Is somehow it works, and it works for a while. You don't feel good for just 5 minutes, like cutting yourself. You can feel good for a good week after that. So maybe if all else fails, scream your fucking heart out. I don't know.